the world on fire.
Welcome again, everyone, to the next episode of The Folly of Man. My name is Chris, and with me here today,
Robert!
And today we'll be looking at the next chapter of Prey.
That is true.
That is true.
These things that you have said are all true.
Would you like to introduce us as to what a Prey
Yes,
is?
first I'd like to introduce y'all to the Folly of Man. We are the Folly of Man. Chris here is a Brony, and I, Robert, am not a Brony. Previously, in our sister series of this show, we have covered the blending of Fallout and My Little Pony. However, one of our favorite and predominant authors of that fanfiction has written this side fiction. It's just another fan fiction where it combines the video game Prey, 2017 Prey, along with My Little Pony. There's some similarities in the way the characters kind of act, interact, react. You know, they're not, obviously it's not the same universe as Fallout, supposedly not the same universe as Fallout Equestria.
Yeah.
But some of the ways that the characters act, or we've seen some of them act, are written similarly, right?
Yeah.
For instance, Luna acts very similarly to how she was projected as acting in Fallout Equestria, even though we never have one-on-one with Luna in Fallout Equestria. Of course, we should also make the distinction that this is 2017's Prey, not 2007 or 2008.
Yeah, 2007's Prey.
Yeah. So, completely different games, completely different stories. We're like
Still
totally,
in space.
Yeah, both in space, but no Native Americans and completely different stories. We will also, if you are fans of the traditional, normal main series Folly of Man, not that this isn't the main series, but we're not covering Fallout Equestria here. The difference in this show and in this episode is that we don't go into a hyper textualized, detailed chapter recap. We assume that if you are watching this, you have read the chapter. So if you have not, hit the pause button. Remember to smash that like and subscribe. No. And get your code for Raid Shadow Legends. That's going to be the joke in every single episode.
NordVPN?
I wish we could get a sponsorship from NordVPN. That's a service I might actually use, but I have zero interest. You will never get a Flash game. It's not even Flash games. Adobe literally
It's a Flash game.
Adobe literally just uninstalled Flash from my computer. It's like, so we don't support this anymore. Do you want to go ahead and remove this from your computer? And I'm like, sure.
I said no, because don't you dare take your software away from me, you bastards. I do with it what I damn well please.
Listen, if I want to make strong bad Homestar Runner hentai on Flash, just like the good old days, then I'll be damned if Adobe's going to take away my opportunity to do so.
America.
Yeah, that's right. Where was I? Yes. So, if you have not read Prey...
Read Prey.
Yeah. Is there any... I'm trying to remember. It's just Prey, right? It's not like
It's
My
Prey.
Little Pony Prey.
If you look up Prey, if you look like Femfic Prey, it's the top one that comes up.
We have the link in our description. If you're watching this video, click the link in the description. We are covering today Chapter 4. A changeling and a pony both have 4 legs.
Today's episode is brought to you by the number 4.
That's great. And the letter F.
You.
Yeah, basically. So, what we learn in this chapter, and there's a couple different things that we should preface here. The video game Prey is very much a psychological thriller.
A psychological pseudo-horror.
Yeah, so, pseudo-horror is a good word for it. Pseudo-horror, PH, Project Horizons, it's all coming together, folks. It's all coming together. Pseudo spelled with a P.
It's just not in any way connected.
I know. So, anyways, but
tell me again about Pepe Sylvia.
The thing, Pepe Sylvia. In Prey, you can't trust anything that you are seeing or you are being told.
Yep.
Because from the very beginning in the game, they tell you when you realize that the apartment and the life that you're living is a motherfucking lie, and it's just effectively a movie studio that you've been cast in your own life. The game tells you from the beginning, you can't trust me. Nothing I show you can you believe that this is real. Mm-hmm. And this is the chapter where we first, as readers, start to question, because it is written in kind of such a surrealist way at times, is anything I'm seeing real? In fact, Gallus is the one that suggests that since we were at the it's a tree of harmony, right?
Mm-hmm.
Since we were at the tree of harmony, maybe this is just another one of those tests from the tree of harmony.
Yeah.
Kkat literally, as the author, plants the seed that maybe this is an illusion. Maybe what you're seeing isn't true. Granted, she did that in the prologue, in the dream that Ocellus has, right? In the dream, it's very surreal. It's very, I don't have a reflection. I don't know who I am. I don't, like, you start questioning, like, is this just a fever dream? Are any of these things actually happening? Who can I trust? Is Luna actually Luna? Is Gallus actually Gallus, right? She confronts Gallus and says, tell me something only Gallus would know.
Yeah.
But in a world of worlds, if you were a changeling that somehow had a device to rip away Gallus's memories, you could potentially know something that only Gallus would know.
Yeah.
If you had been observing them before they got there.
Now there is a small caveat. She is able, and I don't know whether they actually mentioned it in this chapter. It might be the next chapter. So I might be going a little ahead.
Okay.
But it describes that Ocellus, or Ocellus, can taste Luna's love coming through the mirror.
Right.
And so there is a connection there that does have to be manifest as some kind of authenticity.
Well, and Ocellus is super concerned that if she's basically already made up in her mind, well, I'm going to make the decision to save everyone and be stuck here, but I need to start planning for what being stuck here looks like. So she even talks to Luna about, when you were here for 1,000 years as Nightmare Moon, what did you eat?
Mm-hmm.
And basically what we learn is that Luna, using the dark magics that she had reaped and rather succumbed to, or I get the feeling that the dark magics existed, she just started utilizing them. She didn't create the dark magics.
Yeah, as if she tapped into some greater force.
Right, she tapped into what was already there, right? Kind of in how Fallout Equestria, the zebra magics are viewed as like the Necronomicon. Here's the
and
dangerous...
it's some ancient evil, yeah.
And those magics generally require some form of sacrifice to access their true powers, right? Nothing's free in zebra magic. When you talk about magic systems, there's like soft magic systems, hard magic systems. I think that's a hard magic system where there's a penalty and a cost. It's one of the reasons why I really love the series, The Wizard of Earthsea, right? And I don't know if you ever read any of the Earthsea novels, but in that series, magic has a very real physical element to it. Yes, you can learn the words that conjure the magics, but it's kind of like a butterfly effect. You need to understand that what you're doing here is changing something there, and you are welcoming in things that you may not be able to control from what starts off ostensibly...
Entropy and chaos.
Right. What starts off ostensibly as, I sing a song that controls goats, and now they follow me, kind of like the Pied Piper thing, turns into, I have summoned a shadow of myself that is trying to murder me.
Yeah.
Right? Dark Link is real.
Yeah.
And in that, the dark magics here seem kind of like a hard magic system. Right?
I feel like, I've never read it, but there's Brian Sanderson, novelist, makes fantasy fiction novels. One of the books was The Way of Kings. They have to consume metal. To there's only a few people who can do it, but the cost is consuming and eating metal, and it kind of using it and taking it and pushing it through your body, and you can have power over metal.
That sounds very alchemical.
Yes,
like an alchemist. Like I literally must consume these elements to produce the effect I want.
Yes, Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, that's cool.
Because that's how you consume the pearl. You literally pop it in your mouth and you hope that it's not actually a pebble.
So anyways, we learn from Luna that she crafted companions, like shadow beings, like dark creatures, very much like what we see. They sound like very much what like we've seen in Prey. Mm-hmm. And so one of my first thoughts is, okay, so are these shadow beings that we're observing, are they something separate in the castle that we're yet to observe, or have they somehow been corrupted into these changelings that we're seeing? Is that a possibility? Because she asks herself, Ocellus asks herself, she's like, I understand that, Nightmare Moon's castle's here. And I even understand that I got sucked through a portal and then I'm here. She's like, but how the fuck did changelings get here? Like, how did they get here and know all these things and access all these magics and do all these dangerous things? I will say, I love that her comforting thought is, if there was the power to get me here, then surely Luna, Celestia, Twilight Sparkle, my king. These people, maybe even Discord, that have access to these powerful magics, that love me and care for me, would do everything they could to find a way to bring me back.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's the little light. That's the little blue flame that's helping push her on, even though she knows her sacrifice. So back to, how am I going to feed? If I'm going to be stuck here, how will I survive? And Luna's first thought is, well, with these creatures that I created, that gave me company, I also created these kind of servants to keep things running. And specifically, I created a garden that not only was cultivating the things I needed for my dark potions, but also just food, sustenance for me to survive. And I ordered them to continue their work in case Celestia basically hoisted me on my own petard, right?
Yeah.
If her plan, it was a failsafe in case she got shunted back to the moon.
Yep.
But one of the things we learn is that the moon is still Luna's domain. So though it was used as a punishment for her, she still has access to the moon psychically.
Yep.
Right? It's still considered part of her realm, whereas Celestia, is goddess over Equestria.
Yep.
Right? Luna still, her dominion and domain is still over a barren rock in the sky.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool. But she says there will be enough food in my greenhouse there effectively to feed you forever. There, you will never run out. And she's like, well, that's nice. That may fill my stomach, but
kind of a changeling.
Kind of afraid to be love-starved and turning into those fuckers over there.
Yeah.
And then Luna's like, oh, right. Yeah, right. The chain. Yeah. Yeah, that thing. Got it. Sorry. Actually, she couldn't snap. So she'd be like, clopping her hooves. Or maybe if she's got horseshoes, give them a quick little snap.
Oh, yeah. That would actually be a cool effect where they do like that and you see a little spark come off.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Flint and Steel.
Yeah. But anyways, Luna says, I can, and this is a power I didn't realize Luna had, visit you in your dreams. And though I will not be with you physically, I will be with you psychically. And my love for you will be able to sustain you.
Yeah, it's explained during the show I think more than one episode, but at a few parts where Luna can actually, like, one of her jobs was over the pony's sleep state.
Right.
So where Celestia was over the waking state.
If you think about it, too, think about the name of her as a monster. Nightmare Moon. Well, where do nightmares attack you?
Yeah.
Until the nightmares become real. Oh my God, why did we make a holodeck?
Evil Lincoln is back.
That's evil neo-simulated Lincoln is back. No fire boomstick in Space Canoe. Cause explosive decompression. Enough with your futuristic mumbo jumbo.
Anyway. Yes, so it's explained that was kind of her job, which also makes Celestia's rule in that 1,000 years. Ugh.
I just realized the fan fiction that I have to write. It just hit me.
Futurama and ponies?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Twilight Sparkle goes to sleep and wakes up.
Bender is effectively a Steel Ranger because fucking obviously.
Mm-hmm.
What would Zoidberg be? Oh, he would be a hippogriff.
Yeah.
Zoidberg would be a hippogriff, right? In their seahorse form.
Yeah.
Right. Not to be confused with a griffin because they're different. Hippogriffs and griffins. I have to keep. There was
an issue in the movie that came up with that where there was it was a red herring, where they're like, we have to find, like, Celestia calls out Twilight Sparkle and says, go and find the kingdom of the hippo, and then stops. So the hippogriffs. And they're like, oh, hippos, we have to find but it only lasts for like, not a scene, but like in a sequence. Mm-hmm. And then they're like, oh, they mean hippogriffs. Okay. So nothing ever came of it.
Right.
So it was very obviously a writing point that they have cut in half. I imagine at one point they would have actually had them go to the kingdom of the hippos, and the hippos would have been like, you're on the wrong spot.
Yeah.
You got to go. We're hungry because we're owned by Hasbro. However,
turns out they're Pablo Escobar's hippos, and they are high on cocaine and very, very angry about it.
Oh no! Actually, if Hungry Hungry Hippos is an IP and intellectual property,
oh my God,
it is
Hasbro.
So yeah, they were going to do a crossover with Hungry Hungry Hippos, and it never worked because they didn't have enough time.
Now you've given me the terrifying mental image of hungry, hungry ponies, and it's literally 4 of the main 6, and their like heads are jumping forward trying to eat like I don't know,
Hasbro, get on this. You can make
cupcakes.
money.
It could be Pinkie Pie themed. They're all Pinkie Pie, and they're literally trying to eat
Or
like,
they're the different members
cupcakes
of
or
the pie-
balloons or something.
They're the different members of the Pie family. We have what was originally going to be Inky, Pinky,
Or you could do
Blinky,
Applejack,
but-
Big Macintosh, and who's Apple Blossom, Apple Bloom,
Apple Bloom.
and they could be fighting over apples.
Because Apple Bloom was the one.
Isn't there an Apple game like Hi Ho Cheerio? You could do Hi Ho Cheerio with Why
Dang.
are you not doing this, Hasbro?
Because
there's
Hasbro-
clearly a market for
because
this.
the second-
Chris would buy all of those.
Because the second that the Bronies came about, Hasbro got really, really upset with the fact that they existed.
Yeah, but money, right? Money.
It ruined their image, and so they were like, companies were actually smart when it came to money. Any of them could rule the world, but they're all very short-sighted because they have ego.
But enough about Disney.
Yeah.
Oh,
Just make a new movie, you bastards.
Marvel and Star Wars. We'll just buy those and run them into the ground.
Well, to be fair, they had a better run with Marvel than they did Star Wars.
See, the thing you got to remember about Marvel is that Disney acquired them halfway through when they had already planned out the entire story.
Oh, yeah.
So this tier 3, let me continue. This tier 3, this next gen of Marvel films for the next 3 years, this is the one that the mouse got his dirty little hands on, and watch it how bad they're all gonna be.
Well, to be fair,
Endgame was already kind of cringy.
George Lucas did hand them story points, so they kind of did, and then they were like,
yeah, fuck
nah.
these. Well, Kathleen Kennedy, in my opinion, who'd always been waiting for an opportunity to tell George Lucas to go fuck himself, told George Lucas to go fuck himself.
Yeah, which is a problem. Kathleen Kennedy has a very good history of like finances. Yeah. That was her shtick. She could just turn like pennies
making
into
films profitable, basically making them look like they lost money on paper, keeping all the money and not paying any of the talent. She was very good at that, like any good producer in Hollywood.
True, but it
That's
also
how
means
you get the promotions.
She could turn copper into gold. But the problem is that doesn't mean you're very creative. And so she took over the reins, obviously creatively, and it just...
Yeah. Anyways, let's get back on the story.
Yes.
Shall we? So, Gallus shows up, as I mentioned earlier, plummeting out of the ceiling. And basically is tied up in all these different multicolored vines, and we're kind of learning that each of these vines has different powers. One might be connected to water, but one spews purple gases that apparently are flammable.
Yeah.
And nearly burn them all. He's also kind of shell-shocked, like apparently doesn't like tight spaces, but it also makes sense.
Claustrophobic, yeah.
That's something that could fly,
yeah.
Might make sense that they might not want to be trapped in a small space. I get that.
Yep.
I get that.
No, it's the you can kind of tell that the tentacles, call them tentacles, haha. The vines, they act as the infrastructural system to distribute the parts throughout the vessel.
Mm-hmm.
I keep calling it the vessel because even going back to Prey on this, and that's the reason. So yeah, in Prey, you could shoot
The
at
space. It's not the spaceship Yamamoto.
No.
It's the spaceship Nightmare Moon.
Yeah, space battleship.
Okay, yeah. But it's very clearly not a battleship in this instance.
It's not even a ship in this instance.
It's
so
not.
none
Not
of it
yet,
works.
until the final chapter when that motherfucker rockets off into space.
How does the stonework stay together? Shut up. That's how it stays together.
Oh, beautiful for celestial skies.
In Prey, you could actually shoot into certain pipes that would emit flame, and the flame actually had an effect in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And you could actually seal it back off with the glue gun.
See, this is
so
where
this
I
is
feel like
referential to that.
I either need to go play Prey to have a better perspective, or watch a more detailed playthrough. I've watched lots of speedruns of Prey.
Yeah.
But you don't get a lot of the gameplay in that. It's just a lot of breaking boundaries and doing that sort of thing.
The thing about Prey, and it is a criticism towards Prey, is about as... It's trying to be a psychological horror game, but it's about as scary as Custard.
Well, it's kind of... So here's the deal. It's kind of hard to be afraid of something if you have a gun that you can just kill the thing, right?
Not even that. It's the fact that they do such a kind of a poor job of setting up, like the scare sequences, they go way overboard on. Like they have like a visual effect, they have a music stinger that's really loud, and they don't actually pay attention to when the player is looking at the thing. So all you do is you kind of hear something and
Right.
there's a flash from somewhere and you're like, what happened? Just whatever. Because they try to do jump scares. First off, don't do jump scares in horror. Don't. It's actually a bad idea, and it ruins some of the effect.
Well, it's effective, but it's cheap. And you really only get to do one. Steven Spielberg talked about this, right? And not that I'm a big fan of Steven Spielberg, but when he's talking about film theory, in this instance, he knew what he's talking about. Even though, I will clarify, he is considered part of the film school generation of directors, the George Lucas's, the Martin Scorsese's. However, he never attended film school. Never. He just kind of...
Just a rich bitch.
Just kind of, yep, basically. Just kind of started making movies. But anyways, one of the things he says, and it probably comes down from Hitchcock. I just don't know this rule specifically from Hitchcock. You get one good, quote-unquote, jump scare in a movie. And he says in Jaws, he says, I kind of cheated. I got two. But he says, I had to space them far enough out in the movie that when the second one came, it really was a surprise.
Yeah.
The problem is now you have movies like Eli Roth Gore Fests that have like a dozen jump scares in them as well. And it's just, like you said, it's cheap. You feel like you're being manipulated. There's a slow build up and then a big music sting.
The part of it is that what you kind of want is you want someone to be terrified of the jump scare without delivering it. And there is a Hitchcockian rule to the idea that you don't show the monster, you lead up to the monster, but you don't show the monster.
Well, that's why the movie Alien, not Aliens, the first Alien, is so effective. How long is the alien on camera?
It's
like full, hey, here you go, here's the thing.
Isn't it like 8 minutes or less?
It may be like 3 minutes or less.
Yeah, it's a short amount.
In that as well, it's also why the movie The Silence of the Lambs works so well. Hannibal Lecter, Anthony Hopkins as Hannibal Lecter. Sorry, Sir Anthony Hopkins as Hannibal Lecter.
Sir Anthony Paycheck.
He's only on camera for like 8 minutes in the entire film, but you feel his presence throughout all of it, right?
Yeah.
And when you first meet this villain, right? We're talking about a villain. Right now, our villain in Prey is I wouldn't go so far as to call him an anti-hero.
Well, he's not the primary antagonist, though.
Right, he is advising, but he's definitely a villain, right?
Well, yeah, that's the reason I say anti-hero, because he's not the antagonist.
They do a really good job at the end of the second act to remind you that Hannibal Lecter is a motherfucking people eater, and he carves people's faces off and will do anything to get, like, he is a psychotic, he is a sociopath.
A manipulator, absolutely.
Yeah, but you're right. He is not in the story, Buffalo Bill is kind of our antagonist.
He's the antagonist.
Right.
Because the climax involves the confrontation in Buffalo Bill's home.
And I would not disagree with that at all. But you feel his pressure, his presence throughout the entire film.
And I'm suddenly remembering the door scene, and it's just the best fucking scene of like almost any movie that's ever been, where they're knocking on the door, and it's just so good.
Yeah. But they disarm you. Good villains, you're like, well, what's the big deal? I mean, you've told me that he's dangerous, but all I see is this very
well-mannered,
witty, well-mannered,
British,
beguiling in a way, and then they keep giving you these flashes like, oh, that shark has teeth, right?
Yeah.
It reminds you that this guy is a motherfucking killer.
Yeah.
He would cut you up and eat you. Mm-hmm. He'd serve you to yourself.
Not the companion, but the person who's next to him in a cell next to him, who. Okay, just to take the rating and crank it all the way up, jerks off and throws the sputum into her face.
At Judy Foster, yeah.
Yeah.
Jodie Foster.
And Hannibal Lecter, just using words, talking to him, convinces him to kill himself. It's like, yes, that's who you're dealing with. Because Hannibal Lecter kind of wants her to continue manipulatively, but yes.
Yeah, sure. Well, so not that we're reviewing Silence of the Lambs, but in the book series, he is in love with Clarice.
Yeah,
right?
Makes sense.
And at the end of, sorry, spoilers, maybe if we ever review other books, which we might do one day, but at the end of that series, at the end of Hannibal Lecter, the actual story Hannibal Lecter, they run off together.
Yeah.
What? Like, it's, anyways.
Anyway, that building. Going back to Prey.
What I was going to say is that the villain in Prey, though, is nebulous. We see flashes of the villain, but it's a hive mind, right? So we're literally seeing... This is the changelings that we're seeing, the drones, are literally just the first little glimpses of the alien. It's just a little egg pod that we're seeing, right? Mm-hmm. We're building up to seeing Queen Elytra at some point, right? She's the
We've name dropped already. So.
At least as far as we know right now, she's the big villain, right? Mm-hmm. And all we're seeing is her presence and her pressure and her
influence,
her devices, literal devices.
Yeah.
The changelings, these drones, she goes to Ocellus goes to activate a button, and she needs like a broom handle. She goes to a broom closet, and 3 of the 4 brooms in the closet turn into changelings and pin her to the ground. And they have this device. It's like what do you call it?
Teardropper?
A teardrop, but it's sharp. It's like a
well, I think of it like
what is that damn physics phenomenon? It's a piece of glass that you hit on one end and it shatters a print something drop.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. It looks like an eardropper.
But anyways, yeah, it's long, thin, and sharp, and it has like purple gases in the bell end of it.
Yeah,
and they're like, instead of just crushing her or beating her, draining her of her love is what they're saying is let's stick her.
Yeah.
And so they're going to stick her with this device. And the pressure and the presence of these devices, we don't know what they do. Mm-hmm. So what the hell does this thing do? So here, Kkat in this chapter has introduced us that this is something dangerous. Now the question will be, is she going to have it used on one of our allies, or is she, Ocellus, going to use the captured device on someone else and realize how fucking dangerous it is?
This is a connection to the game, which is the neuromods. What they had done in the game setting, to pull the cloak back, but to kind of explain, I think it's explained fairly early on. They had found out a way with the mimics to because they had mimicked things around them, you could actually mimic people's neurological pathways, and it would actually take the pathways and you could remap other people's neurological pathways using the neuromods. And so all it was kind of a blueprint for how the neurological pathways need to be constructed. You'd inject it into your eye, because of course you would. It's a horror game. Of course you inject things into people's eyes.
Of course.
And it would actually imprint the neural pathway into your brain. That's the reason you could get a neuromod that would increase your hacking ability. Well, in what world would you just be able to inject something and be better at hacking?
So in this story, the question then becomes could that be done to take someone's memories?
Yeah.
Right?
Maybe.
Again, can we trust anything that we're seeing? And I hate to be that guy who's just I can't trust anything I'm seeing, but I feel like I should at least raise the question. That's where that's the seed that Kkat's planted in this story.
To ruin it. In fact, what it is that the entire thing is actually a book and you're reading it.
God damn it! I knew it. Breaking the fourth wall as always. So to summarize, though,
if Kkat actually ended the book with, and then the reader looked back disappointed that in fact this entire time it was a book, I'd be like, you brilliant.
Kkat introduces the mechanic of crafting.
Yep.
Ocellus is able to craft this super dark liner that works on her saddlebags that protects her from the elements of chaos.
Yep.
The elements of chaos are poisonous, effectively. They will poison your mind.
Yeah.
So just purely being exposed to them, they will try and get into your head and control you, similar to the Necronomicon. Mm-hmm. And now she has a bag upgrade that will protect her from these elements. But we have not captured any of those elements yet.
No.
Right? So I'm trying to think of thematically, is there anything that we're missing from this chapter? Anything of import or note that we need to make sure that we cover here?
No.
Yes. The black magic wall. That's how Ocellus discovers that Luna's guard and defenses are still active.
Yeah, the button that she was actually trying to press, that was the whole mop thing, was because there is a shutter that will close around certain things as part of the security system
to protect the throne room.
Yep, and all of the buttons are hidden away in a rather gamified way.
Well, and Ocellus perks up and is like, oh, a puzzle. So is this like Ocellus in the show really into puzzles?
I don't remember.
You don't? Right.
I watched a little bit of season 8.
I was going to say, we're outside of the realm of the seasons that you traditionally have watched.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. That's kind of where we leave off thematically. So now
after meeting
she
Gallus,
has a friend. She had wondered if her friends had come through, and there's an odd exchange between her and Gallus. Gallus says, well, I guess we need to find the others. And she says, well, how do you know that there are others? And he says, well, I see that there's you. And then he kind of trails off and just assumed that everybody else would be here as well.
Well, yeah, because
it's kind of an odd thing. It's just, it was
I
presented
think it is presented odd, but I think it is a safe assumption. if you are with a group of people,
Yeah.
and you were to suddenly pop and then be reappeared into some place that's completely alien, and you find one of you, well, that's good.
What I'm
possibility
saying,
you'll find the others.
Karth, is when I look at the character select screen, there's a lot of blank squares, and we need to fill the Ebon Hawk if we're going to go destroy the Starforge.
Of course.
Didn't expect a Knights of the Old Republic reference, did ya?
I was hoping for it.
Yeah. Well, no one expects a Knights of the Old Republic reference.
As long as Disney doesn't touch that.
Something I want to touch on here, too, is I've noticed something in reading Kkat. So with Fallout Equestria, yes, your lovely sticker there. Fallout Equestria, I noticed, or I didn't notice because I was listening to it being read to me by Crazed Rambling. And tell me if this was the case. When I'm reading Prey, her chapters are broken up into, and I hesitate to say vignettes because they're not different, but they're short sections.
Yes, that is correct.
Broken up.
That is correct in Fallout Equestria.
It is. So very similar. And I'd never noticed that style because I didn't read it. I listened to Fallout Equestria. But the author that reminds me of the most is actually one of my favorite authors. He's in the top 5. Kurt Vonnegut wrote his chapters. Now, what he did is rather than one chapter being lots of little snippets, his chapters were just super short. He might have a chapter that's like 3 paragraphs.
Kkat is for Kurt Vonnegut. Confirmed.
Kurt Vonnegut is dead.
No, he only faked his own death and assumed a pseudonym on the internet.
He would be unimaginably old. Like, over 100 years old.
Yeah.
All right, you heard it here first. Kkat confirmed as Kurt Vonnegut. The K stands for Kurt.
Mm-hmm. And the other K stands for Vonnegut.
Anyways, I just thought I had never really paid much attention to that, and I wanted to point it out because I think that's interesting. So, but I wonder, though, and work with me here, if it is done so because I don't know Kkat's writing style. Every author is different. But what it implies to me, as I've observed in maybe some other fan fiction writers, is that they sit down, they have a big frame, but writing what they're doing, you only have brief amount, like if you have a real life and a real job, you have brief snippets where you can write. So I imagine Kkat sitting down, I write 5 paragraphs, or maybe I write 10 paragraphs and pare them down to 5, and that's all the time I had to do right now. And that's why it's always broken up in these little snippets, because it's not necessarily always a change of scene. There's intentionality behind it. She did it for a reason.
Yeah, I think it might be the way that she envisions the pacing to go in her own mind, because she actually had a lot of the story written out before she kind of finalized the pen to paper, if that makes sense.
Well, of course. Well, we've talked about that. She has to have, I hate to say has to have, but certainly would have to have a very detailed outline of some such to know. At least she seems like the kind of author that does. There's too many things that connect. I feel like she's told us before that there were some things that were like in her writing that were happy accidents. Like, oh, that actually worked out.
Yeah.
And you see it all the times with authors who write things that are incredibly episodic, that they happen upon things that, oh, well, that worked out, and I can reference this like I did 16 chapters ago. But more often than not, the episodic people, it's like literally they're just like a squirrel hunting for nuts. Every chapter's something different, and then they might tie back the last chapter of something with the first one.
Yeah,
right?
I don't like those. They that's usually something that loses me.
From everything that you've said about like going back to Project Horizons for just a brief snippet, it sounds like Somber had an idea in the beginning of what he wanted to do, but everybody seems to suggest that after a certain chapter, it's like it just never stopped.
He had the destination and he had the start, but he didn't know how to get to the destination from the start, and so he's continuously building a bridge.
Yeah.
But the problem is that I think what it is it's more a vector than it is a point in space. And so he goes, well, here's a road bump. Let's go this way. And we go this way.
Almost like we got a little too close to it. Like, oh, wow, I was actually writing myself closer to the end there, but there's a lot more I want to do.
Possibly.
But anyways, we'll talk about Somber and Project Horizons in its own series, but it's just, obviously we're comparing authors here, right? And we have a very, kind of small window of authors that we've covered in, the Fallout Equestria, My Little Pony,
Folly of Man. We've covered 3 authors, so
yeah, maybe that's what we should do. Instead of saying like the My Little Pony fan fiction universe, we'll just call it the Folly of Man.
Yeah, what we've covered in the Folly.
Yeah. So I will say that the quality of writing in this chapter was still quite good. I feel like this chapter is, in many elements, way more My Little Pony than it is Prey, right? So I feel like we're kind of getting a return to form of some of the fun that My Little Pony... this story up to now has not had a lot of fun. And you have to remember, like, these are fun, playful, childish characters existing in a very real, mature world.
I had spoken to Kkat about it, and she was excited for us covering this because she thought it was when the story more opens up because we get introduced to other characters. And I'm realizing her saying that and me reading it and you kind of mentioning it now, it has to deal with the fact that when we're stuck in Ocellus' mind, because we are stuck in Ocellus' mind, even if Luna is there, she's more of a quest giver than she is a character.
Well, there's one instance in this chapter where Ocellus hallucinates Luna, or at least it's implied that she hallucinates Luna. And so it's like, oh my God, all right, we're seeing her in mirrors, but you're now seeing her, like, what's going on here, right?
Yeah. So we're stuck in Ocellus' mind, and so a lot of the interesting parts of Fall of Equestria is the dialogue sequences.
Sure.
We can't have dialogue
if there's no one to have dialogue with.
Yes, and so so any kind of interaction at this point has been very forced. Like, Luna has to be cut off very quickly, so we don't have an opportunity to really go into depth aside from the sequence where we're describing in the last chapter.
Too, as I mentioned in the last go round in traditional story archetypes, Luna is the magic giver in the story. Right?
Yeah.
She is the holder of all knowledge, and if we had unbridled access to the holder of all knowledge, we'd answer too many questions too quickly and solve too many problems. Yeah. Undoubtedly, there's going to be a point where we lose our connection completely with Luna, right? Because that's just what's going to happen in this story.
Are you saying that this is in fact just a clever cover for the Green Mile?
Yeah, or Obi-Wan.
Oh, true.
Yeah. Like, is Luna just going to be gone halfway through the story? Search her feelings, Ocellus. Use the Force.
Run, Ocellus, run.
Use the dark magics. Use the dark magics. One thing I do want to say is that we see more about changeling culture and their forms. She talks about how these drones were so young that they were barely removed, like, from the pupae stage, right?
Yeah. They're adolescent.
And it's like, yeah, they were able to do brooms, but she was talking about, like, a pony form. She's like, I don't even count pony form as a form. Pony form is the first form that you learned, right? It's like your basic default form.
Yeah.
And if you look at the changeling body structure, it's the most closely related. They're very similar in at least layout. There's different parts, obviously, but they're very, very similar. But she talks about how some forms are much more comfortable for her. And for her, her draconic form seems to be the one that she defaults to. She's very comfortable. So, of course, laying the groundwork for, her romance later. This is the form I feel. It's really my skin that I'm in. But, she's also pretty good at turning into a bugbear. And we also learned a little bit more about, taking, Professor Fluttershy's classes. That's how she learned her pink bat form, right?
Yeah.
So it's just interesting. There's very much of, the masks that she keeps taking off. Who am I? What am I?
Yeah.
What really am I in this world? What is the skin that I'm most comfortable in? What I'm saying, Chris, is this really just a complex metaphor for being a teenager and trying to discover your feelings?
Possibly.
And your sexual interests.
Who
am I today? Who am I going to be in this world ahead of me?
What am I when I don't even know who I am?
That's right.
Yeah, it is.
You're nothing. You're not special. In a world of 7.5 billion people, I guarantee you it's been done before.
I think the important thing is that it's what are you that matters to you, not what are you separate from everything else. Yeah. And if you aren't comfortable with that answer, then very obviously you're just going to keep cycling through like she has been doing. Yeah. No, it is an important thing. And it might be brought up in the story later, but I completely forgot. Where if they have no access to ponies, then of course the changelings wouldn't be able to change into ponies. So on the moon, it might make sense. It's like, of course, Gallus hasn't been stolen away by some other changeling because they haven't had time to actually learn how to change into Gallus.
Yeah.
Or any griffin.
Right.
All they have is mosaics.
It certainly is. Yeah, this would just be a fucked up version of it.
Van Gogh.
Yeah, basically. So I think that about covers some of the topics and the ideas and kind of some of the stylistic choices. I'd be interested to hear what Kkat thinks because she is undoubtedly well read. There's just kind of a similarity there in the structure. As I was saying with Vonnegut earlier, he doesn't have vignettes within his chapters. His chapters are just super short. So if you look at a Vonnegut book, you're like, there's 200 chapters in this book. And it's like, hold on there.
How
Hold
are there
on.
only 180 pages? Okay, whatever.
But there must be some commonality. He was a great science fiction writer. This is very much a science fiction story, and one of my favorite authors.
And I hate to rip that Band-Aid off, but most science fiction is fantasy. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Well, Star Wars isn't science fiction; it's a fantasy.
Yeah, but no, I mean that's what I mean. Is it's science fiction, but it's science fiction fantasy. Most science fiction is science fiction fantasy. There is very, very little actual hard sci-fi.
In my mind,
At least in the mainstream.
I was going to say Asimov gets really close to that.
Asimov's probably the closest.
Yeah, because his stuff is it tries so hard to be based very intently and based on ideas or concepts that he projects out from known science.
Well, Asimov was more about the philosophy of advancing technology, not about the fantastical nature of advancing technology.
So, for those of you who forgot, there's no pony pun of the week in this show. There's no pony pun. If you want the pony pun, I'm sorry. And I know specifically the person who reminds us the most to include the pony pun, Moonblaze. I'm sorry, buddy. There's no pony pun in this. So you'll just have to watch Project Horizons for the pony pun. Pony pun this week, whenever we're doing Prey, sitting up in a nice cozy chair, has Zer's feet in a nice warm Epsom salt soak. Is sipping a Mai Tai or maybe a glass of Earl Grey tea, but iced Earl Grey tea. The pony pun, you got hot feet. You don't want a hot drink. You want to cool down.
I don't know how I feel about iced Earl Grey. This is me.
Iced Earl Grey is so good.
Okay.
It's totes. It's so good. It's hella totes. It gives you a case of halitosis.
Poggers.
So, I would like to remind everyone here that if you like what we do here, come hang out with us in the Discord. The comment section here on YouTube is great, but we have way more fun in Discord. It is a fantastic community. Come be a part of, I hate to say family, but it's just because when somebody says you're family, it means they're going to take advantage of you.
Yeah.
And we don't do that. But just come hang out. It's great. There's lots of shit posting and memes. There's no politics. So if you're looking for somewhere, unless you want to talk about equestrian politics, there's plenty of that.
Horse-based politics.
Yeah,
is fantastic.
horse-based politics. But it's a good escape. We have a lot of fun on the Discord. And if you would like to support Chris and I and Chrisco with our show, we have a Patreon and a Subscribestar. I would encourage you to just $1 a month. If we were talking about this today, if just 10% of the people who are quote unquote subscribers on YouTube donate $1 every month, we'd be able to get a new camera. We would have all of our server costs and editing costs. We would actually be able to make this look a little bit better. But if you don't, that's totally fine. Just like I said, come hang out with us. On
Don't
the
feel
Discord.
pressured to. Just know if you want to.
That being
It's
said,
appreciated.
I actually want to thank on Prey the people who do support us. So, Sky Arrow,
Thank you.
thank you. O'Malley Caboose 5,
Thank you.
Arcus Acer,
Thank you.
Moon 45 Sun, thank
Thank
you.
you.
And lastly, Tinker, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you very much. We greatly appreciate every little bit that you do. Makes our lives easier and more comfortable because I was actually totaling some of the math on what we've sunk into server costs and stuff for the years. Not that y'all need to worry about that, but it's we have invested our blood, sweat, and tears and money in getting this together because it's something that we enjoy doing. We would do it if we didn't make anything at it. So, if you would like to email us, you can email us at cbpbch@gmail.com. Of course, that's cbpbch@gmail.com. If you are listening to the podcast of this, and for somehow you found Prey, but don't listen to the main series, in our main series of The Foley of Man Season 3, we are covering Project Horizons. And if you are listening to us, go check out that YouTube page. We have lots of other interesting videos. We do car repair videos. We do Boginate videos where we're just working on things. I do some cooking videos. We do stupid meme videos. Got to get you to do some more computer videos on there as well.
Yeah.
But actually, really, the end game of what we need to do is, since we need to replicate everything that you see on YouTube, Chris is going to start doing makeup videos. We're going to start doing MRE. We're going to do eating MRE videos, right?
Was it mukbang?
Yeah, mukbang.
Where you just eat the MREs and you listen to us eat?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're going to do ASMR. Yeah, just have Chris eating clotted cream for an hour. Yeah, great. Wearing nothing but a tube sock.
Yes. A
God.
body tube sock.
Oh God! Yeah, we have you
It's
in
like a
that
pantsuit.
Did you see that scary ass Totoro body sock that I sent you?
Yeah.
It's like, this is the stuff of nightmares. I'm gonna put that, if I remember, I'm gonna put that image behind me on the screen so y'all can just see exactly how scary that is. But yeah, we got to cover everything. So Anyways, that's how you can find us, follow us. Facebook and Twitter, fuck that shit. We don't care.
It's out there, but I don't think we've ever actually paid attention to it.
And same thing for our Patreon subscribe start. There is no additional content to unlock. All of our content is absolutely 100% free. If you're supporting us, you're doing it out of the good of your heart, and we are incredibly thankful. I want to thank the authors that we have covered here specifically. Thank you, Kkat. Thank you, Somber. And thank you, Mime Zinga, for allowing us to cover your books. Even though in this series we're not talking about Somber or Mime Zinga, they have been gracious enough to not only give us tacit permission to talk about their books in a YouTube format, but they have joined us and hopped on, and it has been so... There's nothing more powerful than us idiots to be able to talk about our feelings about a book and then actually have the author share what they were thinking, where they were going, and particularly getting the one-on-one interview with Mime Zinga was such a cool way to wrap that up.
That's actually in there as well. So if you are interested, Mime Zinga does have an interview with us.
And there is no gatekeeper to our episodes. All of our episodes are available through our Libsyn. So if you go download the podcast, it's not like, well, we only keep the last 100 episodes. Every episode we've done is available in all of their shitty earlier quality in every form. But every single episode is available. So... anything you'd like to... I've done a lot of talking.
Nope. I have nothing else to add. I think that covers pretty much everything. So, for Robert, I'm Chris. See y'all next time.
Bye.
It's all over, but the cry...
Don't fuck up. Don't fuck up.
Don't you do it. Don't you dare.
Or else we're gonna tie you to the bumper hitch on Robert's car, and he's dragging you all the way home.
The bumper hitch?
Yeah.
I don't have a hitch on my car. I wish I had a hitch on my car.
To be fair, if you had a bumper hitch on your car,
the only car in that driveway with a bumper hitch is the truck.
Also, if you had a bumper hitch on there, it would be hilarious because your bumper's made of plastic.
Yeah, God.
Really soft.
I'm pulling a shopping cart, and even then, I'm stressing that thing out.
All I'm saying is, just how you... I don't know. Anyway.